These are the only two Forerunner things I have. 343, you guys really gotta make some, like, monitor ball props or, like, sentinel props or anything, because this isn't nearly enough. In today's video, I want to talk about something that I was tagged in quite a bit on Twitter, and it's the topic of Bungie's Forerunners versus 343's Forerunners. So if you're a part of the Halo community, you know. And if you're not a part of the Halo community, let me basically explain what this whole stupid controversy is. And before we do that, it's time for me to pay the bills. I'm extremely fortunate to have partnered with Apex Gaming PCs to create a custom line of LateNightGaming themed PCs. The PCs have been pre-built, which means it's easier for you to get your gaming on once yours arrives. They come in 3 tiers: Marine, ODST, and Spartan. Each tier of PC is designed to run modern games, and they're built for different budgets people have. Best part is due to the modular nature of PCs, if you buy yourself a Marine tier PC, later on, if you want a bit of a boost, you can just buy some upgrades for it. Recently, Halo MCC released its Steam Workshop, which means modding is now easier than ever. And if you want to get into modding, now is a pretty good time. If you use my coupon code LateNight with the link down below, you can get a pretty snazzy discount on your new PC. And once you do get one, I'd be curious to hear what your first mod for the MCC is going to be. A huge thank you to Apex Gaming PCs for sponsoring the video, and let's get back to the topic. Bungie kinda winged it for most of their run on the franchise. It was their creation, and they played kind of fast and loose with it, you know? Obviously they cared about the games they were making, but when it came to the lore and stuff, that was kind of like, it was not the most important thing that Bungie was working on, and due to the way that they produced games, usually most of their Halo games were kind of a mess behind the scenes, and it's a miracle that they got out the door as coherently as they did. And I think that that speaks to the talent of Bungie, that in spite of their messy production schedules and even way that they constructed games, the end product was still endlessly charismatic. Now, the Forerunners. They're the ancient race of aliens in the Halo series that created the Halo rings. Their constructs can be found dotting the landscape of any Halo game that you play. Like, you know the ones, those brutalist architectures, those iconic beam towers and stuff. That was the Forerunners. If you know the production of Halo 2, you know that that game wasn't exactly completed, and Bungie had to sort of expand and even modify a little bit that original ending and make a full game out of it with Halo 3. It was not overtly stated, but very heavily implied without a shadow of a doubt that the ones who created the Halo rings, the ones who created the Sentinels, and all these various things, even the ones who inspired the Covenant religion, they were in fact not aliens. They were humans. All along, it was the human race that made the Halo rings. And when they fired it, they reset themselves and kind of re-evolved in the galaxy alongside other living beings. It's a very cool, cyclical, poetic take on the ancient alien trope, and it's very much in the style of Bungie, and it's very conclusive, and if Halo 2 ended the way it was supposed to, that would have been expanded further. So see, the Sabertooth guy, he put together the original ending of Halo 2, and what was revealed in that original ending was really interesting. At the end of the game, the fight was going to return to Earth, right? The Prophet of Truth, the leader of the Covenant, he's been kind of backstabbing the elites, he's been even backstabbing his own fellow prophets. It's kind of like, well, what's this guy thinking? What's he doing? What's he up to? This doesn't make any sense. Why is he collapsing his own empire and religion? Well, it turns out that the Prophet of Truth was after something that was buried on Earth. And what that thing is this machine. And this machine has been kind of broadcasting above ground and been subtly guiding and influencing the path of evolution for beings on Earth. Now, for what purpose? Who knows, but it's Forerunner in creation. The Forerunners had this guiding hand in the evolutionary path of the human race. And who knows how long this machine has been active, subtly guiding the human race. Well, the Prophet of Truth, he knew about this machine. And what he wanted to do was he wanted to get rid of all the other Covenant. He essentially used them so that he could eventually get to Earth, find this machine, activate the Halo rings, insert himself into the machine, and become almost like this guiding hand for a new Milky Way galaxy, one where he can influence the evolutionary path of beings. Well, at the end of the game, the Prophet of Truth is gone, everything's exploding, everything's kind of like blowing up, and the Arbiter takes a look inside the machine to see what a Forerunner looks like, because this machine needs a genetic template to guide evolution. And when he looks inside that machine, he doesn't see the skeleton of an alien. He sees the skeleton of a human, firmly establishing that the human race were the Forerunners all along. As Arbiter makes his way to the surface with this revelation, the machine is exploding and falling apart and stuff, and at the end of the original Halo 2, both humanity and the elites are now free of their shackles. The human race had unknowingly been influenced by their own ancestors all this time, and with the machine gone, humanity can now forge a path on their own, free of the influence of the Forerunners that predated them. And the elites are now free of the shackles of the prophets. They're free to take to the stars and explore their own cultures and beliefs on their own, free of those prophets' lies in their heads. The original ending of the Halo trilogy, or the original ending of Halo 2, either way, Bungie had pretty conclusively believed that Forerunners were humans all along. Now, in Halo 3, there are these terminals that are very vague and kind of poetic in a sense, and they imply that maybe there's some more differences between the human race and Forerunners than what the games led us to believe. But then immediately following that, you see comics released, as well as a book written by Joe Staten that firmly say that, like, the human race, they were Forerunners all along. So it's just kind of a mess, and it's just kind of, a side effect of the way that Bungie ran things. Lore, obviously that matters to an extent. Your universe can't be completely inconsistent, but what they were really focused on was telling a cool story, as well as providing awesome action and level design. And that's kind of what people got. The conclusion to the Halo trilogy was this nice, satisfying, like, oh, we were the Forerunners all along. And then we kind of move on into the future. Bungie went off to make Destiny, and then 343 Industries, which was a transmedia partner that published a lot of various Halo material outside of the games, they kind of became the main shepherds of the franchise, as well as main developers. And the thing about 343 Industries is they were brought alongside Bungie. They didn't really create Halo. They were formed to kind of take care of Halo outside of the games that Bungie were making. So 343 Industries, they approached it not as, it's our baby, we can do with it whatever we want. They took it very seriously. This is a very serious universe. You can't just play fast and loose with this thing. And the problem was Bungie did. There was a lot of kind of like vagaries, things that were left open. There was obviously consistency, but it was an inconsistent consistency, if that makes any sense. So 343 sits down and they want to establish the facts of the Halo universe. They want to take it very seriously so that there's no contradictions or anything. Together with this incredible late great author Greg Bear, they created this awesome trilogy of science fiction books, the Forerunner trilogy. It's basically Lord of the Rings, but in outer space in terms of scale, scope, and concept. It's a very good trilogy of books, but what 343 had finally settled on as, like, if we're going to be consistent, here are the facts. The Forerunners are not humans, they are a separate race of aliens, and beyond that, 343 had established and constructed the Society of the Forerunners alongside Greg Bear. And they established that the Forerunners had a caste system, and what's kind of interesting is Bungie treated the Forerunners almost as kind of like these, they're almost like heroes in a sense, like they sacrificed themselves to save the galaxy from this zombie-like flood. Just dropped my watch. Zombie-like flood infection. 343 had a very different take on the Forerunners. They injected a bit of a gray area into the whole topic. The Forerunners had a caste system. They were not peaceful, they were not wonderful, they had a lot of flaws as a society. There were good individuals within them, but the fall of the Forerunner Empire was as much due to their own flaws as it was the zombie flood virus. And with this new established canon for the Halo series, 343 took it and ran with it when they began producing their own games. Halo 4 explored the Promethean warrior servants, which were kind of like the Forerunners equivalent of the military or navy, and their own leader, general in the Didact, who had just gone completely insane from his war with the Flood, as well as his own personal vendetta against the human race back when he remembers fighting them. Yeah, that's also another aspect of 343's lore. The human race existed alongside the Forerunners, and we were kind of like a rivaling spacefaring civilization. It gets very complicated and convoluted. But as 343 continued to explore this new set-in-stone interpretation of the Forerunners, you had people that were very confused by the tonal shift from the Bungie games, and then on top of that, you had a section of the community that really played the Halo games for the action. They were almost like Halo had always marketed itself back in the 2000s to basically, like, the best way I can describe it is jocks. You know, like, these games weren't high concept or anything, you know? They were just like awesome action stories where the green stormtrooper blew up the purple aliens and blood went everywhere and it was crazy and aliens are attacking. It was a good time. It wasn't high concept sci-fi and it never aimed to be that. Well, new developer 343 Industries, they're taking the science fiction very seriously. Halo isn't really a game for the jocks anymore. It's trying to be kind of like a game for the nerds. People who stay up late at night reading wikis, kind of absorbing all this information about fictional science fiction universes. So you've kind of got three different little segments of the Halo community. You've got the jocks that are confused why Halo suddenly started getting very nerdy and high concept science fiction. You've got the Bungie era Halo fans that are confused as to why 343 went in a completely different direction for the Forerunner race. And then you've got, you know, the lore fans who are actually really eating good with this new take on the franchise. You know, those people who stay up late reading wikis and stuff. They really love that Halo has basically become this treasure trove of information, just this whole fictional universe with its own history and interpersonal politics. Now, the problems with this different take on how the Forerunners were handled, I think, unfortunately gets wrapped into the main games. Bungie were eventually able to always cross the finish line with a very charismatic and powerful production. Their combat loops were always solid, their art design always on point, and the technological evolution of their engine was always excellent. Their games were really good. 343's games, one could argue, are very inconsistent and spotty. And the thing about 343's take on the story that was quite different from Bungie is Bungie told stories in the Halo universe about characters from the Halo universe. 343's games, and I believe this is probably because they inherited the franchise, 343's games were usually about Halo as a series. There was a lot of meta commentary about the Halo IP as a whole, and so usually they were these very, very character-focused breakdowns of the tropes of different characters. Like Halo 4 was more of a breakdown of Master Chief as a gaming icon than it was a story set in the Halo universe. And double for Halo Infinite, which is a game just riddled with subtext and meta commentary on the state of the Halo franchise. And so unfortunately, what you lose is those people that played the Bungie games for the action stories, seeing where it's gonna go next, all the crazy stuff that's gonna happen, they're left a bit wanting, because what they thought was going to be an awesome action-adventure story actually turned out to be this character study. And that's not really what they're playing Halo for, and so they feel kind of like the Halo universe is just spinning its wheels and not really going anywhere. And so here we go with Halo Infinite, and the Halo community, they're pretty bored. You know, this is, again, another interpersonal character study Halo story from 343 Industries. The Master Chief is sad, let's study that. And it feels kind of like the Halo universe itself isn't actually progressing in any meaningful way. So the Halo community, they're getting pretty bored. And honestly, what's kind of sad is it reminds me of the state of the Star Wars fandom. The Disney Star Wars movies, the best way I can describe them is they didn't feel like stories set in the Star Wars universe. They felt like stories about the Star Wars IP, if that makes sense. Like they are very consciously aware of the fact that they are Star Wars. And so they almost feel kind of like when you're not like The Force Awakens, which is retreading familiar ground because it's Star Wars, you got things like The Last Jedi, which feel more like breakdowns of the Star Wars IP than they do stories set in that universe. And so as a whole, the Disney trilogy felt very self-conscious and obviously designed by people who knew that they were working on Star Wars, if that makes sense. And 343's mainline games give off that same kind of insecurity. They're not about characters in the Halo universe, they're about the Halo IP. And unfortunately, because these games are so self-aware about the fact that they are the Halo IP and the importance of the Halo IP, the audience is now The gamers are now becoming more aware of the Halo IP, and unfortunately, where we are right now, I don't think the Halo community is in a very healthy mindset when it comes to discussing things about the Forerunners or the games as a whole, because they've almost become more fans of the direction of the Halo franchise than they are fans of the Halo universe, if that makes any sense. So how does this factor into the discussion about the Forerunners? Well, I recently got this awesome Halo encyclopedia that I've been reading. It's great. If I was a kid, this thing would have been like a childhood dream. You know, it's got paragraphs and paragraphs of lore and breaking down the Halo series. But what kind of sucks is you can't share anything without the community arguing about, well, what was Bungie's intention? And then screw you, 343 had different, and it devolves into arguments that are outside of the Halo universe. It's just people bickering about different artistic directions. And what's my take on the Bungie versus 343 Forerunner debate? Well, some of this I definitely think is just knee-jerk reactions to changes that they don't agree with, and some of it is also definitely due to poor choices made on the developers' part. But in order to move forward with the universe, I don't really care about Bungie's Forerunners versus 343's Forerunners. I definitely prefer Bungie's take on the Forerunners. I think it's more poetic, but that's not the lore of Halo. The lore of Halo right now was established by the Greg Bear novels, and so going forward, that's kind of what the Halo universe is, and rather than be angry that it's not the way that Bungie originally envisioned, I just want to enjoy Halo, you know? I want to enjoy this universe. I want to stop analyzing and critiquing it, and I want to start getting lost in this sci-fi world that I once fell in love with. So that's my take on the Forerunner debate within the community. It would be very nice if we could retroactively change the past. It would be very nice if maybe the 343 mainline Halo games could be a little bit more coherent, a little bit stronger in their direction. But right now, going forward, I'm not really interested in debating the past. I just want to see where the Halo universe goes from here, you know? So, alright guys. Hopefully my take on the whole situation was kind of interesting. If not, too bad. I tricked you into watching the full video. Huge thank you to my channel members who are going to be appearing on the screen right there. There they go, there's their credits. Patron members should be right there. Alright, that is pretty cool. Guys, I need to get a glass of water right now because my throat is very sore. But thank you for coming to my TED Talk.